G'day there, I'm Andrew from BigKidPoems and this is Big Kid Poems Uncovered. Today I wanted to share with you a little bit about how Big Kid Poems came to be and why poetry. And that's my first big question, is why write poems? So it should be there. So this is the first thing. First of all, I started writing poems just because it's fun. You get a bit of a reaction from other people, different reactions from different people, sometimes good, sometimes not so good, but it's all about having fun. So for me, it started, I think, probably back in primary school. In year 7, I remember a friend and I had the task of writing a poem together, and we wrote it and then we turned it into a bit of a rap song and we performed it for the teacher and he loved it. And I think from that moment, I was hooked. I thought, this is cool. If you can get a reaction like this, it's good fun. So that's part of why I write poems, and you might notice that my Big Kid Poems logo says smile, laugh, enjoy, and I think that's what I want to get out of writing these poems, is to hopefully make you either smile, laugh and enjoy what my poems are about. So that's the first part. This next part is called writing a poem, and this is probably the hardest part. Is if you're going to start writing some poems, you've got to come up with some ideas. I get most of my ideas from life experiences and from my own kids and my family, all of those things growing up. There's a lot of stuff that you can draw on, even things that you see happening around you in the world. So that's a good place to start, and then you just have to put pen to paper or you can type it on your computer. But either way, that's a good place to start, and you need to decide what kind of poem that you want to write. There's lots of different poems out there. I choose to use verses, which all of them seem to have rhyming. For some reason, I like to rhyme my poems, so sometimes it's really tricky coming up with some rhyming words. So I'll constantly go back onto Google and type in rhyming words for certain words, and that helps sometimes when I'm really stuck to find out what the next line is going to be. The other thing was, when you're writing poems, you've got to think about the length of the poem and what do you want it to really, the message that you're trying to get across, and that can be a real challenge. So if you're ever going to have a go, you just have to start somewhere and maybe have a read of other people's poems and see what sort of poems that you really gel with, and hopefully make it fun, and that's pretty cool. So what do you do with your poem? You've finished writing one, you think it's pretty good. The first step really is to read it out loud to yourself and think, how does it sound? What parts do I need to change? Because editing is a huge part of any creative process. So getting it on paper is great, and then you just need to try and make it better, and that can take a lot of time. Once you think that it's pretty good, test it out. See if you can try it on another person, see if you get a response. Sometimes where you think you're going to get a response, you might not get a response. So that's a good place to start as well. And then deciding what to do with it. Either just keep it and make a collection of poems. You could try lots of different things. I had the idea to get my poems out by putting them on YouTube, so that's what I did. And that was quite a difficult process to go through and quite scary, but I managed to do some poems which you can check out on my channel and see what you think. Now, if like me, you decide that you want to film your poems, this is the next step. So this is part of that filming process. So I want to show you some of the cool things that you can do if you do decide to film. The first thing I decided to do was buy myself a cheap green screen. You get what you pay for, but mine was, I think, about $60 Australian, so not too expensive. And the process of setting one up, I'll show you what mine looks like. It actually looks like this. So this is the stool that I sit on. That was a cheap number from Kmart, and this is my green screen. You can see I've just got it supported on the frame. It didn't cost me too much money, and yeah, I have to keep it nice and tight so that I don't get all of the shadows that come onto the screen, and that's not cool. This is the lights that I've got, and I bought a pair for about $150, and that's enough just to enable you to see me clearly on the screen. Now that you've seen my green screen, you'll know it's pretty rough. The other thing I had to do was buy some lights and also buy a little microphone, which is sort of pinned on my shirt here so you can hear my voice a bit clearer. These are all really important things for filming. So the lighting, the sound, and a green screen, I reckon, is a good place to start. And a camera is not a bad option too. So if you can get a good camera, that makes a big difference. Now, why a green screen? If you're going to use a green screen, you can do some things which make it a little bit more interesting. Rather than just having any old background, you could do a background like this, You could do a background like this, and you can also do a background like this. And you'll notice that this one, that the background's actually moving. So you can put a video behind you as you're performing. Even if it's not a poem, you can use whatever background that you like. So it just makes it a bit more fun. So that's the first part. The next part is you need some sort of good video editing software. I use one called Movavi, which allows me to do lots of cool things, including using a green screen or chroma key. So you can have fun with that, and yeah, that's it. Once you also start your video editing process, you can start doing some visual effects as well. I mentioned about the green screen and changing your backgrounds, but you can also find out some different things that your editing software does. For example, I could change myself to black and white and look like this. Here I am in black and white, which is a bit different. Or I could use some other effects, perhaps this one, or perhaps even this one. And you can see lots of me. So there's some cool ideas that you can use as well when you're doing some video editing. The next part that I want to mention was about sound, and sound is so important. But you might have noticed if you watch some of my videos that it's not always me speaking, or it doesn't always sound like me speaking. If you check it out, sometimes I do my own sound effects. So sometimes that might involve me using a program like GarageBand, and I will get a microphone and use GarageBand to record my voice, and then I'll change it. Or I'll actually record some of the sound effects. It might be like a scream, or it might be a glass breaking, or a door closing, or something like that. And I tend to use those just for fun, to enhance my poems, just to make them a little bit more interesting than just using my same voice the whole time. Using your editing software, you can also change your voice as well. So my voice could sound a little bit like this
if I talk in a different voice.
Or if I want to change it to something a little bit different, perhaps it sounds like this. So there's some effects that you can use within your editing program as well. The last thing I wanted to mention when it comes to the video effects is thinking about things like titles. And titles are pretty important. You need to start with the title, and you can put titles throughout. Sometimes I use titles or subtitles just to go through so you can actually see what my poem says and read the words. So that's pretty important too. So that's just a range of the different effects once you're filming and editing your video. The next part I want to talk about is music, because music can be really cool in your video too. There's different parts in poems where I've added some background music just for effect. Perhaps this song you might remember from the tomato poem, or this song you might remember from one of my other poems. You can check it out and find out which one that it comes from as well. So the last thing I want to talk about is what to do with your poems once you've finished, once you've done the editing, you've added the sound, the titles, the music, everything that I've mentioned. Then it's up to you. You can see that I put my poems onto YouTube, and I've got 10 poems on there now, so I've got 10 and counting. I'm going to keep going. So if you like my poems that you've seen so far, if you haven't checked them out, have a look, and perhaps in the comments below, if you can let me know your favourite and why, that would be really good, so that I can get some feedback on what you really like about the poems, so I can write some more. I've got a few more coming up, so stay with my channel. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. I've had a bit of fun putting it all together. So if you haven't subscribed, click on the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and that would be great. So I hope you've enjoyed and found this interesting today. So yeah, let me know what you'd like to see next. That would be fantastic. See you later.